Welcome, ladies and gentlemen of the old world. I hope you're all doing well, and today, my friends, we're back with the Nurgle vs. Vampire Coast showdown here on the Black Ark. Certainly going to be very scary for Nurgle. Lots of shooting, but Nurgle does have shooting of its own, as we're going to be coming in with the double Soulgrinder, as well as some Marauder Horsemen. So Nurgle's been having a little bit of a hard time lately. I've noticed that they do have one of the lowest win rates. As a matter of fact, I think the High Elves are actually stronger than them in Domination mode. High Elves have a better win rate, and in my experience of playing both factions, I feel like the High Elves are better than Nurgle. But Nurgle has a lot of unexplored elements, I suppose. They do have some decent Bombard tools with the Soulgrinders, which can really utilize terrain pretty well. So you can like sit behind here and shoot up and over, and on certain maps, Nurgle of course can shine. Festus did get nerfed very heavily, but deservedly so. His Mortis engine was like stronger than Kugath's. Also, his Mortis engine didn't require him to be in contact, which is one of the strongest effects in the game, right? So he could be sitting safely, Mortis engineing. He could be kiting you and Mortis engineering. He has a constant heal that you can turn on and off. I think the nerfs were warranted. He's certainly not like an auto take like he was before with Warriors of Chaos, but yeah, again, not as like dominant and oppressive, but yeah, he gets the job done, I think. And obviously for Nurgle, against Vampire Coast, I think Kugath would be a little bit too risky. If you come in with Kugath and they have like a cannon build, because it's very viable on this map here, right? Coming in with like 3 or 4 cannons, Kugath is just dead in the water, right? Whereas what you can do here with Festus is you can come and control the low ground objective with the Mortis engine. Not necessarily always control it, but trade well. And then you play the high ground with your like home field summons, and that's kind of how you win. Now, 2 Soulgrinders, Horsemen to deal with big threats. We do have the double Chaos Warrior. You might be wondering, why are you bringing Chaos Warriors to kill crappy zombies? Well, that's because Depth Guard exists. And if you came into the Depth Guard rush, you're going to want some heavy hitters to deal with them, because Depth Guard will kill an infinite amount of Nurgle demons and just crappy chaff. Soulgrinder's doing pretty good, though. Getting a good Bombard downtown. One of the gunnery wights, or gunnery mobs, I should say, is brought down low. Now, for my opponent's build, it is going to be handgun mobs. It's going to be a couple of hand cannons in the back as well with animated hulks. We do have Count Noctiles here. The Hard Knock Life. I do like this pick. I think he's pretty cool. Can give some counter shooting here and is tough to kill. Sirens and a Rotting Leviathan, too. The Rotting Leviathan really caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it, and it really is a great deterrent against my Chaos Warriors. But something that's okay about Soulgrinders is they have really good weapon strength, 450, and decent melee attack with poison. So Soulgrinders can actually kind of dual purpose go after bigger targets as well, as long as you keep them away from cannons and other shooting tools. Now, we're going to be shooting here. We do start pounding these gunnery mobs here. Just a single Haggard Nurgling back here to grab the objective. And the low ground objective is going to be grabbed by Coast initially, while I'm actually the one doing the range skirmishing, which is pretty hilarious. So Vampire Coast is going to have to scoot up a little bit. And the gunnery mobs are down to 64 models from 120. So the Nurgle bombardments have been okay so far, although we do need to take out the hand cannons and get a little bit of work done in that regard as well. Big boy Festus just waddling about the healing elixir, so in case they do get shot at, I do have the healing elixirs on and trying to figure out where I want to go. Just feeling out the trades. I felt as if the Nurgle Bombards did a little bit better against the gunnery mobs, that I would be willing to like push this with Festus and maybe summon in a bunch of Vanguards like Furies to swarm over here. There was certainly some play on the table, but what I end up deciding to do is going for the low ground objective. So we get the double Nurgle Great Weapons. They're going to be moving up to try and shut down the gunnery mobs here. And my opponent, in response, summons an animated Hulks and Depth Guard. And, Depth Guard will trade very poorly into Great Weapon Infantry, but if they're supported by Hulks or zombies, it actually becomes a relatively decent trade. So the Great Weapons move in. And these are just pistol mobs. They don't have good armor piercing, so the 100 armor of the Chaos Warriors is really going to help us. And Festus is coming down with these healing elixirs to help out. Really nice zombie summon from Count Noctiles using the Roth's Moondial, which is a really long-range summon. It's one of his items, and he's going to be summoning the zombies into the Nurgle Great Weapon Warriors, which these guys are just so cool looking. I love the horns and kind of the Baroque armor and the color scheme. That would actually be a pretty easy color scheme to do in tabletop. It's kind of like, you probably just do like a base of a green with like some sort of like a Nuln or Agrax, probably like an Agrax wash on top of it. Really not hard to do, which is pretty cool. So if you guys are Nurgle players, painting Nurgle in tabletop is like one of the coolest experiences. Now, the big crab, obviously a hard counter against my Chaos Warriors, but this is where the 2 Soulgrinders shine. So these big chunguses are going to be moving in and hopefully getting some good attacks against the big Rotting Leviathan. Now, it'll take a while to kill it, but Soulgrinders do have a lot of HP and are pretty durable, and with Festus healing, they should be fine. We do also summon in some basic Marauders of Nurgle, and if we can wrestle this low ground objective, I'll be feeling pretty happy for sure. So it's coming into our favor, but the Sirens are on the way, and we do have the animated Hulks coming in, and you can see the 2 Soulgrinders are actually putting a relatively righteous beating here on the Rotting Leviathans, while the Marauders continue to move up, and Nurgle, getting those healing elixirs going. So Festus just trying to waddle over here to make sure to heal these guys. Now, we do get a big Fury ambush. I saw them pushing up, and I saw a lot of summons down on the low ground, which means they probably didn't have the resources to stop this. So Furies jump on top of the hand cannons, Furies on hand cannons, and Furies on guns. So Nurgle isn't like a purely slow faction. They got some tricks up their sleeve. So a lot of the shooting is going to be shut down here. That felt very, very good. And we do also summon in some Marauders of Nurgle and just a swarm of Nurglings to come up here and trade. Nurglings will take a long time to kill, and they're not cost effective to shoot. Really good Pit of Shades from my opponent on top of the Chaos Warriors. And Big Boy Festus going to be draining, so now we do have the AoE drains. The Harbinger of Pestilence is going down, and it is going to be hitting everything. So this is like kind of playing into my hands a little bit. We do have the objective, we have the 2-cap, so things are looking mighty good, although the Soulgrinder is getting a little bit beat up. Count Noctuals here is a decent presence, and the Marauder Horsemen are throwing axes, throwing their big armor-piercing axes into the Rotting Leviathan. So honestly, trades are going pretty well, and you know, I do like the Soulgrinder build. I feel like you have good Bombard, and even if he did have a cannon build, you could hide the Soulgrinders behind this and bombard upward and cover both objectives. So I think there might be something to that for Nurgle. But again, something to explore. I haven't been playing Nurgle much. I've just, like, I've been playing in a lot of tournaments lately, or at least a couple of them, and I'll be in a series. It's 1-1. I'm playing against other top players, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to play Nurgle in my game 3, and I just have been losing. Like, every single time I play Nurgle, I've been losing. So I've been taking a little bit of break of actually playing them in tournaments, but I still do want to practice, see if I can come up with some builds for them, because, you know, I play them in tabletop. I really enjoy them, right? So the Chaos Warrior Grey Open's going to be moving in and getting blasted by Count Noctuals. Beautiful shot right there. And we're attacking into the Depth Guard, so the Grey Open's a great answer there. Depth Guard do not have great armor piercing, so, you know, the Chaos Warriors are actually fairly resilient there. But the Hard Knock Life doing some good work. Capture Weight's going to be coming back for Ye Old Coast. And we do get an Overcasted Fleshy Abundance here, which is going to be fat. It hits both Soul Grinders, hits our Chaos Warriors, and that is going to be mega cost effective, while the Soul Grinders move in and do go after the big crab. So they're going to be beating this thing down, eventually drop it in. Oh, look at that. He just jumped up and then got knocked back by the crab. That almost looked like a sync animation there. Syrene's causing some problems, and one of the best answers you have against Syrenes as Nurgle is Plague Toads. Plague Toads do magic damage and have bonus for its infantry, so they can counter the Syrenes relatively effectively, so we're going to be hoping for that. Great Weapon's still performing well, but Vampire Coast did actually wrestle the objective. They have more infantry here, they have a lot more capture weight, so that was a little bit problematic. Over here we do mainly just have dogs and halberds and things like that, and my Nurgle army here I think is very cozy. We're in a situation where the Nurglings can really just kind of push back, and it's going to take Vampire Coast quite a bit. Like, Nurglings, they have 24, 24, 28, so they will out-trade zombie deckhand mobs. Deckhand mobs have a lot more HP, but I think Nurglings with the poison, it would be a kind of a close fight. And they're cheaper, too. They only cost, like, what, 350 or something like that? So Nurglings into the very low melee attack of only 14. I think a Nurgling unit probably would beat a polearm unit. Now back on the objective down here, this is really the epicenter of combat, right? It's a little bit of a stalemate up there, so getting the low ground objective is going to be very big for Big Daddy Nurgle here. The Grey Open's doing well, backed up by Festus, who's just continuing to drain, and honestly, I still feel like he's doing well. Now, if this was old Festus, before the nerfs, this battle down here would have been won. These would be dead, these would be dead. Pretty much all the infantry down here would be dead, and I would have already had this objective, right? Because, again, his Mortis Engine damage was very oppressive for his price point. You know, he only costs like 13, 1400, and if you just bring, like, Fleshy Abundance, and his Mortis was doing 48 damage, whereas like Kugath was doing like 36, Vampire Counts ones were 24 to 36, and he didn't need to be in combat for it, unlike those characters, and he's a much harder target. You know, he's a little bit smaller. Although Luther Harkin is actually really good for Coast on this map, especially against Nurgle, because he could just annihilate Festus, sit over him, shoot him, breath attack him, and then charge him, and he's like dead in 1 second. So I was very grateful my opponent didn't bring Luther Harkin here. Nonetheless, people are still getting used to the new meta. Here, the Plague Toads of Nurgle battling Hulks. Not super cost effective, but they're trying their best. And I do get my Marauder Horsemen to go after the doggos here, the scurvy dogs. And Marauder Horsemen and Nurgle do have really high melee defense. They don't have great damage output. The Khorne ones are much better, but even still, they should be able to fend off these dogs. We'll see. Maybe not. Maybe the dogs will get them. And up on the high ground, it's just Mortal Kombat over and over. Plague Toad's going to be circumventing the animated Hulks, trying to put some moves on them. And Nurgling's just going to be saturating in, and they're going to be popping some popcorn. There they go. So they got the glorious whipping animations as they give the business here to these shotgun dudes. And yeah, it's pretty rad, man. Zombie part hand cannons being taken out by Nurglings, what's not to love? And yeah, very much a wet noodle contest up here. Both of us just throwing a bunch of haggard units, but this is how I knew shit was about to get real. I saw some depth guard coming in, I was like, oh boy, I need something good to deal with those depth guards. So thankfully we have some Chaos Warrior Grey Opens on their way over. But, you know, the problem is Vampire Coast is holding the slow ground objective for a long time. As far as value trading goes, it was pretty damn even, honestly. I think I was up a little bit on value at this point, but we both have healing. He has Invocations, I have Festus. You know, I've been able to get a ton of value heals on my Soul Grinders, so damage values can be very deceptive when you're playing as Ye Old Nurgle. And you don't really want to look into it too much unless it's like 3,000 or 4,000, because the amount I've healed these Soul Grinders with Festus and Fleshy Abundance has really mitigated a lot of the value of Vampire Coast here. But Gunnery mobs back there getting some good Dakka. Count Noctilus just shooting away. And of course, Count Noctilus does have a very, very good ammunition, because there's currently a bug where every single time you cast a spell with Lore of Vampires or Lore of Nahakara, it does replenish your ammo. So Noctilus is going to have more ammo than he should, but it's whatever. It's not really that big. He's missed like most of his shots anyway, so it's like, who cares? You know, it'll be fixed in the next patch. So Nurglings moving in. They're going to be waddling down. It's more of a problem with Tomb Kings, to be honest. And with Queen Bess, it's a problem, and with the catapults, the Screaming Skull catapults, it's a little bit of a problem as well, because those things are just like if you have like 3 or 4 of them just getting infinite ammo over the course of a game, it's brutal. But that's why we have global bans in tournaments. This wasn't a tournament game, but it's against a very high level tournament player, so nonetheless, it's a good test of both these factions. Now, Great Weapons are going to be moving up here. Nurgle doing its thing, and down on the low ground, I'm kind of running out of troops. I have my SEMs, you know, but the Depth Guard finally going down to the Harbingers of Pestilence, so Festus still proving to be a pretty decent character here, as he really does just bump and grind, and he's gotten 1,500 value, so he's already paid for himself, which is nice. He doesn't need to be in combat for his Mortis, so I just kind of keep him safely back. Looks like he's going to be waddling after that big beast right there, while the 2 Soulgrinders going to be jumping in and trying to shut that down. Now, as far as reinforcements go, I got some Marauders coming in, but the fact that he summoned Depth Guard up here really did kind of force me to allocate a lot of resources to this fight. So the Great Opens are moving up, and honestly, Coast is looking a little bit bare bones here. We do have a couple gun mobs, which I should be able to potentially get with some Furies. I do summon in some Chaos Chariots of Nurgle, as well as some Chaos Furies. So looking to get this objective, we're coming for that bread, and the Chaos Furies do get gunned down, so good awareness from my opponent here. He gets the gunnery mobs to shut them down. Furies might be able to get a little bit of damage. I think I was like trying to juke and dodge. I was like landing and feigning and doing, all the tricks that I could, but it wasn't going super well. Good micro as well for my opponent. He does get the Depth Guard past me, and the Depth Guard are able to jump on top of the Marauders, and even just a beat-ass Depth Guard unit is just going to crush some Marauders. Depth Guard are awesome, and I think they should be. I'm really happy with where they are, but we do get a nice pick here. The big Leviathan is going to be going down. Fleshy Abundance keeping my other Soulgrinder alive, and just some random zombie flying into the distance is pretty hilarious. But yeah, that Crab's been able to fend them off well. Festus draining down the zombies. The Harbinger of Pestilence doing okay. Doesn't do much damage against the animated Hulks, but it's still something that does add up over the course of a match. We really need to finish off these Depth Guard, man. Now, up here, we are pressing this objective, and we're getting a good cost-effective fight. The Great Weapons of Nurgle, who have proven to be huge. If I didn't bring Great Weapons here and Depth Guard were just running rampant, I think I would be getting crushed pretty bad. Granted, you could go chaff. You could go, like, cheaper Nurgle troops, go wider, and maybe bring, like, Chariots and Rotflies. Like, maybe Rotflies could be a decent answer against Depth Guard with their armor piercing, but I do like the Great Weapons. They're a little bit vulnerable to being shot. Like, if you had, like, a Queen Bess, they're too slow to dodge it, so that could be problematic, but Depth Guard getting worn down, Nurglings trading into the Tide of Skuld. You can see here the animated Hulks are on their way out, but he's ahead on objectives pretty heavily. He's up by about 300 points, a little bit more than that, and it's getting pretty tight. It's getting to the point where I need to get an objective, or else I'm going to be losing the game on points. And, a lot of folks have kind of made claims that objectives don't matter, and I can assure you from many, many games, they do matter. Of course, it's a little bit more about value trading early on, but that's kind of what you wanted from Domination, right? For the objectives to be the thing that forces you to fight, so you can't just draw kite and run. If this was a land battle, I would just run to the back of the map with Soulgrinders and just, there were no rules, obviously, like ladder. I would just run around and shoot and just try to use that to the best of my abilities, right? Have, like, Festus hiding and just healing them, like, into the corner. All that sort of good stuff. Oh, no, I feel a dreaded sneeze coming on. Oh, man, come on, fight it. Nurgle is blessing me. Oh, my God. All right, I'm just going to keep that in because, Nurgle bless. Festus Leech Lord is here. Healing elixirs are going down, and a couple Haggard Marauders are going to be pushing up, but we are threatening the backfield objective. Depth Guard are finally starting to get worn down. Fury's going to be coming in to shut down the shooting, and we do see the Bomber Bats. Bomber Bats, though, just get hard countered, so this is a really cost-effective situation for me where I can summon in Furies from Vanguard, and they will just massacre these deck bombers. They're going to do basically nothing. And the objective is coming to my favor here, so we are going to be getting the top objective. This one, though, is just very, very touch and go here. Festus has been surviving, and Count Noctilus, of course, gotta be trying to get him, maybe get in a melee, maybe just get some shots, we'll see. And the Marauders do get the healing elixir, so that's nice. I was just trying to keep Festus alive because the Mortis isn't going to do anything against Hulks. It's only, better, it'll do a little bit, but it's better against, like, mass infantry and things like that. But the Bomber Bats are dead. Here we get Furies on top of the gun, so up here we're getting a very cost-effective engagement. The Depth Guard are getting broken by the Great Weapons, and the main animated Hulks are slowly being dragged down over time. I was up in value at this point. A little bit of a value lead, but I am kind of being forced based on his early objective control to push up into his zone, right? So it's going to get a little bit more precarious here. He's been doing a really good job kind of controlling this low ground objective. We get more Marauders moving in, just kind of desperate. I know I have to start playing this, and I'm realizing that it's going to be a triple cap situation. It has to be, which is going to be very tough, considering that the Depth Guard have just been such a menace for me to get rid of as Nurgle. Soulgrinder's moving out. Maybe going to be trying to get some bombards over here. We do use the Curse of the Slug on the Scurvy Dogs. I wanted to try and keep them off the objective to make sure I captured it, and I did. And now we're going to be getting some Chaos Furies landing on the Scurvy Dogs here. And the Curse of the Slug does spread to those units. Not that it's going to be super useful. And, you know, dog units in general get wrecked by chariots like super bad because they're infantry sized. Look at the damage. Both Scurvy Dogs just getting hammered by those chariots. But good shooting from Vampire Coast. Handgun mobs getting some great DAC in there. Got pretty good control of the objective. And finally, those Depth Guard do get worn down. But not before the animated Hulks put a righteous beating on my great weapons there. So very, very good showcase of those. So now it's kind of like Nurgle desperation mode. I'm like, okay, let's get some Nurglings up here. On the low ground objective, I Vanguard some Nurglings and Hounds. Should be able to wrestle this objective, so Big Boy Festus is most likely going to be able to take it. And here we get the Chaos Warhounds moving in and going after the zombies. Nice shot coming in from Count Noctilus, while the Popcorn Squad is on its way in. So there they go, and this will probably give us the objective. We're going to be able to wrestle it easily. You know, Count Noctilus doesn't have great capture weight. He has 3 capture weight. Festus has 3 as well. Nurglings have 5, Animated Hulks have 3, and Hounds have 4. So that in tandem with the Marauders, it's going to be much better for us, for sure. So Zombie Pirate Deck and Mob Polearms on their way. Pretty much free real estate. They're going to get wrecked. So that's not necessarily going to be good, but the important thing for me is going to be holding this, because he's currently almost at 1400, so I need to have him triple capped for a relatively long time. Poison Hound's coming in, but he does have a lot on its way, right? He's got handgun mobs, he's got Hulks. The Bats doing good, or the Furies, I should say. They have been able to shut down the shooting and help me to mitigate that and hold the objective, while we do get some Soulgrinder bombardment coming out. Soulgrinders have actually been really good, and I think for Nurgle in the new meta, or the new domination, I should say, I think Soulgrinders have made a little bit of a comeback. Their skirmishing potential, their anti-SCM potential, I think they bring a lot to the table in terms of utility. Now, I don't think other Soulgrinders are good. Generally, I think they're a little bit weak. But for Nurgle, due to the fact that they have a pretty cost-effective mortar, I think that's nice. So Nurgle has controlled the low ground objective, ladies and gentlemen. When we got this one on wraps here, I was up on damage value, but my big kind of heavy contender character that I could really, really use up here to win this fight is down here. And that's the thing with Nurgle. You got to be very careful with where you send things because, you know, they're usually going to be stuck there for the rest of the game, considering how slow you are. So you have to be very calculated. And Nurgle is about calculation. You know, that's one of the kind of the running characteristics of them. So Soulgrinder got a little bit lazy with the micro, and he's just going to be sitting there. So should have had him shooting. Now Nurglings here fighting. Hulks, of course, are going to be smashing them. Hulks do hit hard, and Nurglings have decent melee defense at 33. So you can see these guys are holding it down. Throwing weapons here, but the objective is starting to go to coast as they do move up. I did use Curse of the Slug again to try and keep him from advancing. And the Soulgrinder is just going to be blasting and shooting here. It does have a really long reload, but here we go. Come on, Soulgrinder. Get those shots, man, before the shotguns get close. There they go. Okay. Shooting in, even at point blank, you can't hit the broadside of a barn. It had some weird obstruction there, but yeah, this guy's paid for himself. He's gotten 2,600 value. I mean, he costs, what, 1,900, and he's done very well. But alas, guys, the objective is going to be taken by Coast. I can't hold on to it. Down here, Festus, he's got this one unlocked. There are some Depth Guard coming in, but Depth Guard are going to get wrecked by Festus's Mortis Engine most likely. And, you know, there's enough chaff to kind of hold him at bay. We do have some more Plague Toads coming in. So, guys, if we look at the score, he is at 1,400 just about, and I'm at 1,362. So in order to win, I would need to be just over 1,300 when he got to 1,400, because essentially right now he needs to hold one objective for 100 seconds. And you just kind of half it for me because I have the 2 objectives. So at the current rate, I'm going to lose by just a couple points, which is so unfortunate. If I could have held that objective a little bit longer, we could have potentially gotten it. But this one's looking good. We were actually up in value by about 1,500 at this point in conjunction with the healing. So the value lead was good, but you know, he's also healing as well. He's been able to heal Depth Guard, so the value lead was a little bit deceptive. But man, oh man, what a close, scrappy game. But Nurgle not quite able to get it against the Old Coast. I'm going to be doing one last push here. I was like, okay, well, I just don't have enough time. The Toads are just confused. I was like doing the math in my head, and I was like, oh no, I don't have time. So then I moved forward with everything at the last second. I did the math a little bit wrong in game. But lesson learned. We lost by 50 points. Super close game, really back and forth. And I just love games like that. It was really fun. You know, it was winnable for both sides. I think we lost our other Soulgrinder in a pretty haggard engagement. I think that had that thing lived, we could have ran up to the high ground and held that most likely. But just little things like that. Festus was still great. 2,300 value. He's balanced now, right? He's not like OP. 2,300 is great in tandem with the magic that he did. Great weapons. You know, I thought they might be good, but neither of them did that great in terms of value. Soulgrinder's machines, 1,900 as well as 26 on this bad boy. Throwing axes did good. They were pretty good against the crab. I do like them. Furies were MVP. I mean, just shutting down tons of stuff. 900, 1,400, the Furies were awesome. Now, how do we change this up? Like, how do we effectively deal with the Depth Guard? Depth Guard really were my bane. 1,600, 1,000, 1,000. Like, each of those Depth Guard bumped and grinded and really required a lot of resources to take care of. I think it was a fun Nurgle build though. I like the double Soulgrinder. I feel like you can line of sight cannons. Nurgle, I do feel is a weak faction at the moment, but again, Nurgle's going to be getting DLC. They'll probably get like Tamarcon and other units, and yeah, I think they have potential. Like Nurgle has they're like the Walmart vampire accounts. They're like vampire accounts without the mobility, basically, without good mobility. You have some. You have a little bit of shooting too. It's an interesting faction. You know, I really thought they would be decent. Obviously, the longer games aren't great for Nurgle, but you think it would be because they're all about attrition and grinding. It's tricky. It's tricky. I feel like Nurgle can still be pretty viable on maps like Grove of Slaughter and like Brawler maps. But yeah, I don't know. I need to practice them. I'm going to practice them in the shadows, and we'll re-emerge. Now, let's go back to the drawing board a little bit on the build. GG, well played. That was a super fun game. Arrow played like a champ, and that was a razor close game. Like, if we had held that top objective for like another, 15 seconds or something, we win that game, right? So, okay, that's the wrong button here, so let's go ahead and switch that and go over to the... Oh, that's the wrong one. We need to make a multiplayer lobby here. It's multiplayer lobbies. And let's host it, and yes, perfect. Somebody's probably going to join it. So let's go here, go to Domination, and go to Nurgle. So against Coast, maybe it'll have saved my previous build. Let's see. Yeah, perfect. So it's one of the recent games we played. I kind of like the Reinforcing Army. I think a different direction with the Chaos Warriors, probably. So we got that. The double Exalted Hero of Nurgle actually feels like it might have some potential, right? So we go like this. They don't have bugged capture weight anymore, so they're pretty fair, honestly. So I think we do this. We get the 2 Chaos Chariots, and we get the Chaos Chariot, and then we cut one of you. Or maybe we keep the Marauder Horsemen initially and just have them capture our back objective and then get rid of the Nurglings. And what other spells do we want? So we got the Stream of Corruption, which didn't feel that good. I think maybe like a Blight Boil would be better. And we need to find a way to make this build work. So we do that. We just get like a Marauder. And then we can get another Horseman in reserve. You can see we have a little bit more money. So here's the thing. When Depth Guard come now, you use the double Exalted Heroes, which are just armor-piercing monsters on chariots, to just focus them and kill them. Depth Guard will do almost no damage against them since they have high armor and they're also not infantry. So I like that. Toads were good. Nurglings were fine. I do like having the single chariot. Is there any other utility pieces we want here? Maybe we cut one Marauder. Yeah, you definitely want maxed out Furies. Cut one Marauder and one Nurgling, and maybe we get like a good Rotfly, like an 1100 gold Rotfly. That could be something to consider. Yeah, we want the double Poison Hound. They're pretty useful for like quick objective captures and things like that in very clutch situations. I don't like Spawn of Nurgle that much. I feel like they get shot by the pistol mobs too effectively. So we can get a Rotfly. Yeah, I do like that Rotfly. I think that's good. It's always so hard to just like make the finances of these builds work. So we could cut a Nurgling, we could cut a Toad. I guess we could just cut one Hound, and yeah, then we got like an awkward 400. Yeah, that seems pretty good to me, actually. I like that. One Hound is enough. We got Toads and stuff, and another Horseman here. So I feel like this would have been pretty good, like a good opening. You know, it's a very cagey build. You have Festus roll with the Chariot characters. He'll get a lot of mileage out of them. I think they actually have an item that gives them missile resist, don't they? Yeah, the Helm of Many Eyes, and then the Festering Shroud, 10% missile resist. Something to consider. You can maybe find a way to make that work. But anyways, this is the core build. Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys for joining, and we'll see you next time.